Assalamu alaikum, buddy.
Ji, walaikum assalam.
How are you and how things are going on over here in Past?
I'm very well, Farhan. Thank you very much. And things are pretty decent.
That's great.
And it's the first day of the week, and we are having on-campus classes. So it's a very jolly kind of environment over here.
That's great. So it's the first day that you're going to have the on-campus classes?
Ji, after a big spell of COVID
Yeah.
and vacations, students are back on campus.
Mhm.
And you can see there the library is
Yeah.
almost filled
Filled with
capacity.
students, yes, I can see
Yeah.
that. That's great. Let me ask you straight questions. What is the purpose of education? Because students out there, they are losing their interest in education and they feel like, why do we have to do that? Secondly, there are people who are marketing themselves by saying that degrees are not important. Because everything that they are teaching in education, that is obsolete. Now you tell me, and you should push the students, that what is the purpose of getting education nowadays?
You see, Farhan, I cannot give you a very absolute answer. It's purely based on my opinion. And whatever opinion other people have, I totally respect that.
Great.
That's a disclaimer which I have. Other than that, what I feel the purpose of education is to create an individual that is self-aware, who is aware of his actions and the consequences of those actions in the short run as well as in the long run. So if education does not brings that thing to you where you become conscious of your actions, that if you're about to do certain thing, what will be the impact on the society?
Alright.
How will that impact our country? How will that impact the nation? How will that impact your neighbors? So I think until unless education does not create such an individual, the purpose of education is not fulfilled.
Now tell me, is education really fulfilling this purpose nowadays? Are students really getting conscious, aware that what they are, what they can do, they are actually exploring themselves or not?
You see, things are interconnected. Media has a lot of role to play, social media in particular. So what happens is when a student joins a business administration program, his ideal is Jeff Bezos or Richard Branson.
Elon Musk nowadays.
Elon Musk, Richard Branson, Bill Gates. These are the ideals which students have in their mind when they step into the business school. Unfortunately, since media and all of these things are so interconnected in shaping up the mindset and the opinion of students as well as the general public, so we cannot, look at education in a disconnected manner. So the answer to your question is that no, education is not fulfilling the purpose, which is the real purpose of education. That is to create individuals that are self-responsible, that are self-aware, and that can visualize a better world. So what we have here is we have economical driven students.
Yeah, true.
Unfortunately, and that is the only rationale which students have in their mind. I'm not saying that that's not important, but that is not the holistic thing.
Great. If you know it that they are economically driven, and secondly, if they go into the business administration degree, so they idealize those people, and there is of course a reason to idealize those.
Of course.
If we do not idealize them, and then we are studying business development, business studies, what's the purpose of studying business thing over here? Now tell me one thing. People are claiming that even if you take a business degree, they are teaching you how to do the job in any organization. For instance, there are business degrees are available in HR, in sales, in marketing. So these are very specific departments which are available in companies. So you just simply take this education and after that just go and work for the companies. How do they get this passion and this kick from their mentors that they can do their own businesses? And secondly,
that's a very, very sorry to cut you in between. That's a very, very interesting question which I face all the time. And I understand where you're coming from with regards to this question, since I teach these courses. And honestly, it's a burden to teach such things where we are only creating efficient employees. That is not the real purpose of business administration education.
Great.
Where we need to focus on, we need to focus on bringing up the creative ideas of students. We need to encourage them to think out of the box, to challenge what Michael Porter has said, to challenge what Karl Marx has said, big names. But still, students, they need to have that creative element within themselves where they can, where academic institutions as well as teachers and mentors, they can encourage them to think on their own, to visualize, to dream. When I compare our students and the students in the West, unfortunately, what we are missing on are big dreams. Our students, because of the poor socio-economical conditions, they do not have that capacity of dreaming big, thinking of a life, that life could be more than just few dollars or few rupees.
Alright.
So, yes, you're right that we are creating efficient employees only, but we are missing on that element of leadership where we can create leaders for tomorrow, where we can bring up creative solutions to the problems which we are facing. There are plenty of problems which we are facing. And when you bring in the economic side into the business, and only the economic side, that is what creates lots of problems. Commercialization and pure commercialization takes away the pleasures of life.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, now my second part of the question was that everything that they are teaching in education system, all the books, every content that they are delivering over there is all obsolete. Because current market, for instance, if you see the market nowadays, it's all depending on online. And it's not the only COVID thing that has driven us toward the COVID thing, toward the online thing. People were doing business online even before this COVID thing. But this online scenario was not involved in our education system. Now the whole world is suffering because of that as well. Now my point is, if we know that this is the problem side, and I've conducted more than 100 interviews and every single person understand that this is the problem, I want you to take us toward the solution side. How can we create a solution that at least in the education system we can meet the international standard? And our student who is getting education from Pakistan, they are even not getting jobs in Pakistan, because then we have to offer a job. We'll offer to those people who are studying abroad. So how can we make this system better, and how can we make it effective for the students, because the whole system was created for the students, and students are those who are not getting the benefit. It's the educationalists, it's the institutions, it's the government who's getting benefit. How the student can get the benefit?
Again, Farhan, you have touched upon a very direct and relevant question. I'm glad you brought it up. You see, Farhan, we need to be willing to take the risks. What I've seen is we are very defensive. At institutional level, at government level, government is very defensive as well. They do not want to take risks. Educational institutes, they do not want to take risks.
But at the student is at the stage.
Suffering.
Yeah.
I, as a teacher, I will go with the standard curriculum. This is what generally happens, that I will pick up a standard curriculum that is tried and tested so many times, and I will bring that standard curriculum into the class, and I will wind up the course with that standard curriculum. Reason being because it's very safe. The thing is that you cannot bring in that richness of education until and unless you do not bring in new stuff.
True.
Until and unless you do not test new things and new ideas. And by testing, I do not mean that you just adopt foreign curriculum. You need to create your own curriculum.
Yeah, by understanding and identifying your own system.
Your own problems. We have our own local problems. We can design the curriculum around those local problems, and from there the offshoots will solve those local problems. So we should be, as institutions, as country, as teachers, as students, when we come across problems, we should be willing to take the risks. We should be willing to take the challenges. We need to bring in ideas that are very different. Maybe at times they are very challenging and they are too difficult to handle. But until unless you don't bring in such ideas, such content into the classroom, students are not going to develop into the real content. So another thing which we can do is, instead of relying on the point which you have mentioned with regards to online education, so the education is a lot more out of the books now.
Yes, it is.
It's no more all into the books. It's outside the book as well. It's on the social media. It's on Facebook. It's on Amazon. It's on Google. So education is happening over there as well.
Indeed.
So you cannot fit in everything into the books. We need teachers, we need brains that can look at the other rich side of education which is happening around us, the things that are happening around us. That is education. Bring that into the classroom. That's when creativity is.
Why don't we bring it then?
I think again, people are reluctant. They are afraid to try new things. for certain reasons, people are not willing to take the
Adi,
challenge.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. You said something which was very general. You said we have to take risk. We have to take challenges. I want precise answers. What are those risks? What are those challenges? Who actually has to take these? Is it the student? Is it the
You're
teacher?
very smart.
Is it the institute? Yeah. That's what I feel. Or is it the government?
You see,
Or what would be the baby step? How can we initiate something that we consider, okay, today we should do this thing, and after that, after 10 years, after 15 years, after 20 years at least, might be, we would be at a stage that we can say, yes, we have done something.
I think you see, at an individual level, it will be very difficult because you see, teachers are also employed.
Yes.
And that is one of the fears which they carry, that if they try new things and they bring up new stuff into the classroom, they might get a backlash from the institutions. So teachers need institutional support.
Yes.
Okay? Institutions need their support from the government to develop their own curriculum. The thing what has happened over the years is that we have developed certain control mechanisms, just like what is happening in banking is State Bank is controlling all other banks, regulatory authority. Just like that, we have developed certain institutions, I won't name those institutions, that are governing the entire structure of curriculum, higher education, education at the primary level. So they are controlling and those standard curriculums are in place. I am the one who supports at university level, I do not want a standard curriculum. I want a curriculum that is...
That's also not possible as well.
That's not possible, but to a certain extent, give the freedom, people in maybe Karachi, they have different geographical conditions, their language is different, province is different, so they have different context. So if you allow them to, modify and play around with the courses and develop their own curriculum, I think that brings in more richness to that. So as a teacher, I think that, even if there are certain risks, I would encourage all the teachers to take those risks.
Again, you don't want teachers to take those risks. What are those risks?
I want teachers to take risks.
Number one. Number two, you said teachers want the support from the institution. We have talked to different VCs, to different principals and deans as well, and they say teachers are the one who are not letting us help them. For instance, if we conduct a teacher's training, because teacher, of course, it's an art. I mean, it's not like there's one set pattern you have to teach this way only. There are different languages, different methodologies. Some teachers are really strict, some teachers are really lenient. And then if they're producing result, it's okay. Now, the thing is, teachers training is required. Institutions are saying, and they are understanding, the government, HEC, every single institution is understanding that now we have to train the teachers, because the teacher is that funnel through which every student has to pass through. When they conduct the teachers training, teachers are not taking interest in that. They believe everything that we are getting trained for, we know it already, which is the worst thing of learning.
Of course.
We know it already, or we don't need it.
Of course.
How do you see the teacher side?
Okay, so you see, there could be multiple reasons for that. The most obvious reason that comes to my mind is that, you see, teachers are different, it's a different species. Educated, they think, and they reason, and teachers...
And they are employed.
And they're employed as well, and they take pride in, some of the teachers, they do take pride in what they're doing.
Yeah.
Now, you see, it depends on what kind of training you're bringing in. So if you're bringing in a training which is based on something which adds value to the classroom, I can assure you, and the training is given by someone who is qualified for that, someone who is competent in it, who has been an authority in that area of pedagogy, then teachers will be interested. What happens is that the educational institutes, they hire training programs to meet the requirements and just to fulfill the duty.
Yeah, just to show it off.
Just to show it off. And that does not work. You need trainers that are really, really competent. You need trainers that have proven record of that pedagogy or of that area or that discipline, and they have mastered that skill and expressed that skill at multiple places. So if you bring in such rich set of trainers into any educational institutes, I'm sure that teachers would be well participating in that training program.
All right. Now tell me, what are the responsibilities of teachers that can help building a good education system? After that, I'll take it toward the institution, and the last part of the interview would be from the government.
Right.
What do we expect from the government? Let's start from the teacher.
A teacher needs to be dedicated to education, first of all. And that means that he should not be worried about the challenges.
All right.
He should be willing to take the risks because ultimately it's the benefit of the student.
What are those risks?
Those risks can be employment risks.
Okay.
Those risks can be backlash from students or from the educational institution. Those risks can be, maybe you're losing your repute, which you have built up over time for being a good teacher. When you try new things, when you bring in challenging ideas into the classroom, you might fail as well. And then that repute which you have developed, that aura which you have developed over the years, that can fade away quickly in an instant.
Ali, your statement has ring the bell in my mind. Tell me, teachers, you said teachers are employed, and that statement is really flashy, Do you think, like in the past we say that we were not considering teachers as employed, we were considering teachers as the nation builders. They are not anymore. How do you see this perception that teachers are employed, and that is the reason we see sometimes if students say something or does something which is not supposed to be done in a classroom, which is the part of the duty, but still it's not giving benefit directly to the institution, they fire the teacher as well. Even if you say something to the student, you get fired by the institution just because you are employed.
Right.
And I have seen students even saying to the teachers that we pay you. Who are you to ask us this question? Now tell me, teachers are employed. How can we make them the nation builder once again?
Now, that's a very thought-provoking question, Farhan. I never thought about this like this before. However, I feel, you need to give certain freedom and you need to restore the dignity in the profession. You need to restore that sanctity within the teaching profession.
All right.
And it's not just money that needs to be there, that's a secondary thing, but that dignity, that acceptability in the society, that self-respect and that pride that used to be there, that needs to be restored. I feel that as a society, we are very stingy when it comes to the teaching profession.
Yes.
So when you're filling up your form for any maybe passport or anything, people are reluctant to write themselves as teacher in their profession. They would say, I'm an assistant professor, I'm an associate professor, I'm a professor,
Researcher.
I'm a researcher. Why is that so? Because it's the missing element of pride which teaching is associated with it. Until unless you don't get that sense of pride, you cannot build the nation.
Okay.
You cannot build the nation when you're suffering from inferiority complex.
Yeah.
Are you getting the point?
Yes.
You cannot do anything constructive when you are
Destructive yourself.
when you have inferiority complex. When you have that sense of dignity and pride and that sense of commitment, that is when you're strong, deep within yourself. That is when you have belief within yourself. And that is when you can take the leap and step forward to do constructive things for the nation.
Good. Let's get back to the question. How teachers can get their dignity back?
By being true to themselves,
All right.
by being honest and sincere to the students,
All right.
to the cause of education, and by being honest.
Okay, great. Responsibilities of the institution in developing a successful education system.
Being honest, being creative, up to date with the current trends in the market,
All right.
and being competitive as well.
Okay. Government, who has appointed some people who are not qualified enough to become those ministers, but still we expect from them, just as you said as well.
We respect all of
Expectations, yes, we respect all of them indeed. Now, tell me, expectations from the government.
Expectations from the government is facilitation, to be honest.
All right.
I feel that government needs to facilitate, not just by money, not just funding, that's the secondary part, but in terms of coordinating with other universities around the world, by facilitating them to travel into our country and facilitating our academicians to travel in other parts of the world, by providing opportunities to people to explore what is around in the world, developing consortiums, developing partnerships with other universities and other academic institutions around the world. I think that education is not all about just one continent or about one country or about one city. It's a global thing.
Yeah, it's a universal thing.
So I think government needs to provide a very positive and a very active role of a facilitator in facilitating this creative process and this journey towards education.
Great. Ali, one last question. When we see the education path and when we see the market, there is a student who has completed his degree and he goes for a job and he applies over there. In the interview, it's so difficult for the interviewer to hire a freshman.
Right.
Just because they do not have an experience. They are offering them, and we are not talking about lumps, we are not talking about fastness where they offer 1 lakh or 80,000 at the beginning. We are talking about in general. What happens? They offer 20,000, 25,000, 30,000. Student is not satisfied that I have paid millions to the university. I have spent millions on universities or education system, and after that I'm getting this peanut. That's the student side. But the market side is also so true. They feel it like he's not trained. Even 20,000 could cost us a loss. How can we minimize this difference of the market and the education system? That when a student gets the degree, he's really ready to do the business or the job or whatever he wants to. He has all those professional skills, the way you were saying, critical thinking, brainstorming on different things, might be communication skills, might be pressure handling, decision making, all these things. What's your answer for that?
So you see, Farhan, if you want to build world-class organizations like Google, like Amazon, like Cisco, like Toyota, so as an employer, you need to be willing to invest in the new capital. I don't feel that you will ever get ready-made employees. It does not exist. You need to work on that raw talent. I really like the MTO programs for the reason because they take the raw talent.
Yes, and they train them.
And they train them.
Good.
There is absolutely a fundamental need for training. Nobody is denying that. The problem is that the ball rolls over to the university or the employer. That's where the problem comes in. The employer does not want to train the students because it's costly. The university does not want to invest in the training programs because they feel that it's not their job. Their job is just the classroom standard teaching. So the ball hops over between the university and the employer.
All right.
So my point of view is that if the employer is wise enough and they take a long-term perspective on their business and they invest in the development of talent, they get the fresh graduates and nobody is ready to work right away. You need to understand that you need to train them according to the requirements of your organization.
All right.
If you don't invest them, you cannot complain. Invest in them, train them, prepare them, give them some time, and then they will work absolutely fine.
Ali, each and every of your answer is like an ocean for me. I really want to jump into that because every answer is giving me a lot of questions. Now tell me, you are saying that we should not only expect from the education system. Once we hire the raw talent, we should train them. Do we have enough time? I mean, first we have spent, we have done MPhil or even PhD there. Everyone is asking to do the PhD as well. And when you become the master, you become the doctor in that field, you become a philosopher. And then what happens? You are going to a company where they will give you training. Is it justifiable?
You see, Farhan, you need to realize this thing. We all need to realize this thing that when you take an undergrad course or even a grad course, there are so many elements related with engineering, with computer science, with business administration degree. There are so many aspects where you need to touch upon. So you cannot have a highly focused program where you can train students in a certain specific area. That cannot happen in that 4 years undergrad degree or a 1 year, 1.5 year, 2 year graduate degree program.
All right.
The graduate degree program or the undergraduate degree program, it provides the foundation. It creates the basic knowledge, the overall knowledge for the student. It does not focus on creating those specific skills that are required within the industry. The employers, they need to understand that.
Okay.
They need to understand that the student knows basics of finance, he knows about economics, he knows about accounting, he knows about information systems, he knows about marketing. But now, the employer needs to invest on that student and train him on those specific skills which you can build on top of that foundation.
Great.
So the foundation is already there, but who's going to build that specific set of skills above that foundation? That's where the employer role needs to be there.
And can we also do something that we make a collaboration between the industry, the market, and the university? They understand it, and university itself is providing training which is actually needed nowadays.
So Farhan, coming back to the previous question, I would want to add one more thing to that. You see, when we talk about skills, skills are always job specific.
Yes.
Knowledge is not. Knowledge is not job specific. Wisdom is not job specific.
Good one.
Whenever the employer hires a student, they are hiring that student for a particular and a very focused and a specific job of programmer. Now the employer is only looking at one skill of the student, which is programming, and they are ignoring the other skills which the student has. Maybe his personality, maybe his speaking ability, maybe his leadership skills. The employer is not focusing on that. So that is why the skills are always developed on the job. And to support my argument, where do you develop the best cricketers? Is it in the books, in the universities, or is it on the ground?
On the ground.
It's on the ground. It's in the field. Where do you develop soldiers? Not in books, it's in the battlefield.
Yeah, good.
So just like that, when you want to develop employees and when you want to create talent, that will always be on the job.
Well, the worst part is we were still talking about employees. We're not talking about entrepreneurs, businessmen and everything. But anyway, Ravi, thank you so very much for your time. It was really lovely listening to you, and every single thing that you have said was really worth listening to as well. And I hope, because we are the teacher, we can deliver the words only. We can just simply tell them this is action takers or someone else. In fact, we're also action takers, but still, through these interviews, what we are doing, we're just giving the vision that this is the thought of the educationalists. Thank you so much for your time.
That's a great job, Farhan. And it's a pleasure to talk to you.
Likewise, man.
Thank you very much.
Take care of